trend.
Hello, and welcome to Two Old Timers Spout Off. Today is November the 6th in the year 2022, and I am
Fred.
And Ethel is here with me, and I've been clean as of last Wednesday, 39 years, and you've been clean 40?
40 years.
40 years. Okay,
We're
so
not telling people.
the date and time and all that shit, I know. And today's episode will be on, we're not sure what to call this, the clarity statement and language and what other stuff we going to, bulletins and approved literature versus non-approved literature and that kind of stuff.
And being respectful to people.
Being respectful. Okay. So the first topic is the clarity statement. And in doing some research real quick this morning before we started this, the clarity statement, it says it came from Bulletin 13 of the Board of Trustees, which is a reprint of something. Hell, I lost it. I closed it. I can't believe I closed it. I don't remember. I want to bring it up in clarity. Bulletin 13, and it says it was reprinted from a Newsline, Volume 2, Number 6. If you don't know what the Newsline is, we may do an episode on the Newsline and the NA way, which combine and all that shit. Okay.
I would like to add something.
Add all you want.
That bulletins, we used to have a board of directors.
Yeah.
Right? And the board of directors would write bulletins. Like this is Bulletin 13. And it was to help guide the fellowship back in a time where we definitely needed some guidance.
Right.
But it is not NA approved literature.
Right.
It is not meant to be read at meetings.
Right.
So I think that's really something that we really want to emphasize is that we're not against NA unapproved literature because there's some really good NA unapproved literature out there.
There's a bunch of it out there.
And we use it with ourselves and our sponsees. But unapproved literature has no place in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous because it confuses people.
Right.
Right. We can help our sponsees and people understand what we aren't talking about, where it comes from. But in a meeting, you can't do that. And it just confuses people.
True. Now, Bulletin 13, World Service Board Trustees, Bulletin 13, is entitled Some Thoughts Regarding Our Relationship to Alcoholics Anonymous. And then it's got in italics, this article was generated by the World Service Board of Trustees in November of 1985. Ooh, it's the anniversary. This is November. In response to the needs of the fellowship. This bulletin was revised during the 1995 and 1996 conference year. Now, our clarity statement, and I'll put it up on the screen when we says we are presented with a dilemma, blah, blah, blah. Most of you know it. And when NA members identify themselves as addicts and alcoholics or talk about living clean and sober, the clarity of the NA message is blurred. To speak in this manner suggests there are two diseases, that one drug is somehow separate from the rest regarding special recognition. Narcotics Anonymous makes no distinction between drugs. Our identity as addicts is all-inclusive, which allows us to concentrate on our similarities, not our differences. Now, that being the clarity statement, very little of that is actually in Bulletin 13. When NA members identify themselves as addicts and alcoholics, talk about living clean and sober, and the clarity of the NA message is blurred. I'll have all this on. That's the only part of the clarity statement that's actually in Bullet 13. I've searched and searched and searched, and it just ain't in there. So where the rest of this come from, I got no idea. Now, and at the bottom of it, it says, extracted from, and I got this off of some website, clarity statement in English, PDF, and it's not actually from Bulletin 13, which kind of blows my mind today.
Also, too, I don't know if we use different clarity statements. Because sometimes when I go to places, it seems like they read more.
Okay.
I kind of tone out the clarity statement because I don't like it.
Right.
And I think it makes us look like we have to justify who we are. When we were young, nobody took us seriously. When I worked at a treatment center, I almost got fired for trying to bring in basic text.
Right.
So there was a time where we really had to fight for our own independence. Treatment centers were saying things like there's no recovery in NA. You have to go to AA.
Right.
When I made my transition from AA to NA, I still would go to AA to see some of my friends and stuff, and there would be people there that would ask me why I go to Narcotics Anonymous, because addicts don't get better, they just die.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that we had to deal with, deal with, and let's say, hey, we go to Narcotics Anonymous for a reason.
Right.
And the reason is that we're staying clean from a disease called addiction and not a specific chemical. The specific chemicals are not what gives us the problem. It's the stuff that's in our brain and the triggering of obsession and compulsion. And that anything can trigger obsession and any mind-changing, mood-altering chemical.
Right. What I was going with all that.
I'm sorry.
No. You bring up a good point that, is there one clarity statement or are there various versions
See, and I don't know. And I don't know the history because we did Google the history and I could not come up with any document or anything that said how we adapted the clarity statement into
meetings.
Well, not just meetings, but I mean into
the first time I heard it was at a convention.
That's what I meant, into conventions.
Yes.
And I could even see some type of statement maybe at conventions. I don't know, but it really seems like it doesn't belong in group. And
it's more written to me for people who are not in the program.
Right. And people that come with a different language from a treatment center.
Right.
And they talk in AA language. And we used to,
now
we're better.
We're
much better than we used to be. But back 30 years ago,
right,
we were really intolerant, militant, and not nice to people that spoke in different languages. People would say things like, my name is Ethel, and I am clean and sober, and then people would get upset. And, and then I know people that would identify themselves. Me would be one of them. My name is, I'm an addict and an addict. Oh, I said Ethel. My name, just take that whole sentence out. My name is Ethel. I'm an addict and an addict.
We used to say things like alky dopey, friend of the program. And somebody actually said to me, I don't know if it was a sponsor or somebody, said, if you identify yourself, maybe I heard it at a convention speaker that I respect, if you identify yourself as anything other than an addict, you are in denial of the first step of Narcotics Anonymous.
And I could see that being true.
Yeah, because being an addict tells you that I have the disease of addiction, number one, and that I can take anything and do it to excess and kill myself with.
Right.
Food,
sex,
money, driving fast, power, yeah, all of that, because and I think this is where there was a major shift in, as we would say, the recovery community as a whole on the planet, when we shifted from a specific substance to the disease concepts. What I've often heard it called disease concept. But this clarity statement cringes my soul when I hear it at a meeting. Because it's not approved literature. Now, approved literature, define that. Approved literature is what we would call conference approved.
Right.
So we decided we'd write something. We'd write it as a fellowship, submit it through our literature committees. It goes to the area, to the region, to the world, to the different literature committees, and it's voted upon at World Service Office because we sent a yay or nay vote up through or down through the channels to that conference that is going to vote on it, and it becomes conference approved literature because every addict in the program had an opportunity, whether they choose to do it or not, to vote on it.
Right.
Okay.
And nobody gets credit for it.
No one person gets credit for it. That's correct.
And these guys get credit for this.
Right.
And also,
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
That's
well,
good.
because if you think about it, our 12 traditions were basically written by one person.
Right.
They were basically told to another person over the phone for 8 hours, but that person does not get credit in the book or anywhere else in NA as a whole for credit for those traditions, even though Fred and Ethel know who wrote them. Right, and we don't go around telling people who wrote. When you say
wrote the traditions, you're talking about the essays that explain the tradition.
In the basic text.
Okay, the essays that explain them. Okay, but yeah, we know who wrote them, but he didn't want credit.
No, never.
No. And
he wrote the tree too. He didn't want credit for that.
So that's conference approved literature, something that nobody has credit for, that the whole fellowship was involved in writing for the most part, and that we voted on. Non-approved literature is everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be written by, Hazelton, or if you don't know who Hazelton is, keep coming back. Thank your stars. Because that's used to all we had at one point, was a little Just for Today or whatever it was fucking called.
No,
Day
that
by
was
Day.
called
The Day by Day?
Daily Meditation?
Yeah, it was
And
before.
you know what that was? That was a AA book where they rewrote, I think it was
they took out the AA.
From the Episcopal Church. I think it was an Episcopal Church 24-hour day type book.
Yeah.
And somehow they adapted it for Alcoholics Anonymous.
And then
because they came from the Oxford group, which was an Episcopal.
That's right. Oxford was Episcopal.
Yeah. It only died out because the head guy in the Oxford groups, he became a Nazi sympathizer.
That's true.
I believe. Okay. I'm not going to say any of this is fact.
Right. Okay.
This is stuff I believe, and I think that we can
that you've heard or something. Yeah.
And one of the things I would like from people that listen to us, if there is anybody that listens to us, and you appreciate what we're saying or not saying, or you're mad, or you think we're idiots, I would really like to get some links and stuff and some idea of how we adapted to say the clarity statement and where that came from. Because it's got to be in some kind of notes and minutes, like at the world level or something, because we do it everywhere, so we had to have somehow decided on it, right?
You would think. You would think.
I mean, don't just start showing up at conventions and groups without somehow it becoming sanctioned in some form or fashion, because we have things that are sanctioned in Narcotics Anonymous that aren't Narcotics Anonymous. You know, when we went through the whole debacle of the Lord's Prayer, that type of thing, right? Yeah.
The Serenity Prayer.
And it's okay for us to use the Serenity Prayer because we don't use the parts that mention any specific deities, even though it is a specific religious prayer.
Right. So
I'm not going to tell you which one.
No. So the clarity statement, unapproved literature. Do we still have a World Board of Trustees?
No. Oh, no. When we got our new service structure, changed everything.
Okay, we changed all that. Yeah. So we don't even have those anymore.
No.
So
after Doug Stone, I'm not sure how it all happened, but
Bob Stone.
Yeah, I know exactly. I have an uncle. Never mind.
His name was Bob. Bob Stone.
I know, but my uncle Doug is named Doug Stone.
Okay.
Bob Stone. After that, everything
kind
of
got
changed, and we went kind of crazy. You could say what you want about Bob, but I really don't know if we did Narcotics Anonymous if it wasn't for Bob, and all that good controversy. We're not. Oh, I wanted to read what I like. Okay.
And like in lieu of the clarity statement?
If we think we need a clarity statement.
Okay.
Okay.
This is out of the basic text.
This is out of the basic text in the introduction, and it is the third paragraph. The 12 Steps of Narcotics Anonymous is adapted from AA are the basis of our recovery program. We have only broadened their perspective. We follow the same path with a single exception. Our identification as addicts is all-inclusive with respect to any mood-changing, mind-altering substance. Alcoholism is too limited a term for us. Our problem is not a specific substance. It is a disease called addiction. We believe that as a fellowship, we have been guided by a greater consciousness and are grateful for the direction that has enabled us to build upon a proven program of recovery. Yeah, so we're grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous.
And I'll take a blurb of that and put it up on the screen.
So that means when somebody, they don't say it much anymore, but back in our days, they used to say, my name is Ethel, and I'm cross-addicted. And then people like Ethel, like me, would say, hide your crosses, and we'd grab our chests. There would be 4 or 5 of us grabbing our chests and being really rude to people. That is not okay.
No, it's not.
It's wrong. And what I like to do is talk to my sponsees and people that have a hard time with language, right? And let them understand what this introduction says and how we do feel about AA. And I have a daughter, okay, and she has 3 years sober in Alcoholics Anonymous.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, so don't tell me that Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't work. I got started in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Too.
I hid out in Narcotics Anonymous because I couldn't be honest enough because of the specific chemical claim. Okay, but not everybody's like that, right? Not everybody is me, right? But I have to stay clean from addiction.
See, I was going to AA to stay sober, but I was coming to NA to get chicks. Didn't work.
No, it didn't work. But we've always had nicer chicks.
Yeah. So, pardon me.
Man, we are such.
Yeah, we are. So we talked about the clarity statement. We talked about the World Board and the bulletins. And do you want to get into the language and treatment centers and all that stuff?
Sure, we can talk about that.
One of the things that separates us from other fellowships is our language. And treatment centers for drug addicts used to be non-existent, except for maybe, those in Texas and Kentucky, the farm. But treatment centers started figuring out that, hey, there's money in this,
a lot of money,
especially
in the early 80s when hospitals weren't making any money.
Right. And so when it got classified as a disease, addiction and alcoholism, treatment centers started popping up all over the place and making all kinds of money. And part of their treatment plans would be, take them to meetings. And if you've seen a van full of people pull up at a meeting, that's what's going on. So treatment centers, and this is a Fred opinion, which I don't share those very often because opinions are like booty holes. They need to be kept to yourself. Everybody has one, and they're not generally based on thinking.
You should watch it
often. Mm-hmm. Is that treatment centers would teach people incorrectly the language of recovery, for lack of a better way of saying that. Well, the language of recovery in different fellowships is different, and that's one of the things that separates us from the other fellowships and distinguishes us between all the different A's, AA, Al-Anon. Let's see, there's GA, Gamblers Anonymous, Loneliness Anonymous.
There's thousands. Codependence Anonymous.
I think there's actually 253 official anonymous programs.
There's actually a program called
Addicts Anonymous,
Marijuana Anonymous.
Marijuana Anonymous.
Cocaine Anonymous.
Yeah. Do they have a Heroin Anonymous?
I don't know.
I think they do.
I don't know if they do or not. I just know that there used to be this big thing with cocaine. People that went to Cocaine Anonymous had a hard time. They like to be special.
Right.
And so they were mean to us Narcotics Anonymous people. I don't think that's true anymore, right? I think that's all in the past. I think we've all matured some, right? We've all learned to adult some, and we're not children in adult bodies anymore. But the thing I would like to add to that is that I got caught up in that whole treatment center thing. I never went to a treatment center, but that's when I got clean in '82. That's when treatment centers really started. About '83 is when they started to pop up everywhere in the world, right? Everywhere you went. And I got caught up in the counseling thing and that type of stuff. And I got caught up in the treatment business in my first few years of recovery. They did not want me to bring the basic text into treatment center. I got a hard time. I got talked to by program directors. I got told that I couldn't do it. And then I would fight and finally get my patients anyway to be able to get a basic text and let people make a choice. Because I don't believe it's my decision anywhere to make anybody make a choice of where they do or don't need to go. I didn't make a choice for my daughter. She didn't want to go to NA because what she said was we were local celebrities. My wife and I were local celebrities in Narcotics Anonymous, and she wanted to have her own identity. So I think that's important. I don't think that we need to tell people what they should or shouldn't do. I have in the past worked with people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they have recommended people to me, and I have recommended people to them that would do better in AA, and they have recommended people to me that would do better in NA. And I believe that that's really important for us to understand that we work in cooperation and not affiliation. And that's not affiliation. I don't know right now. I know there's some more things I wanted to say about it, but it's really good that we're not organized because my thoughts are gone now.
Are they?
Yeah, I'm living in a thought loop. Did you put it on pause?
No, but I'm fixed to go.
We're getting close to ending it, but I really have a story that I want to share. I moved to a small town in 89, and I said, I'm trying hard not to say it. 1989, not 1889, not that old. But when I got here, the treatment center that was here, they were pushing AA and a particular religion with a particular religious book and giving people the AA Big Book and this particular religious book. And it was really hard for us to get them to change to recognize Narcotics Anonymous. This was really before, this is when we were still had H&I, we had H&I cans that we would pass out at meetings just to be able to get money for H&I because we really didn't know what we were doing. And I was going into the treatment center by myself. That's smart, right? So I had some very interesting conversations with program directors and that type of thing. But the story I wanted to share was even years after that, I think somewhere in my 20s of recovery, maybe my late teens, I sponsored a lot of guys from that treatment center, and they were telling me how there was this gym coach, and I knew him, and he was a gym coach. I'm not telling, he was a gym coach, was not in recovery, and was doing aftercare, and he was telling these guys that you couldn't go to Narcotics Anonymous because there was no recovery in NA, and that you had to go to AA. I was a little bit more adult by that time, and I wasn't hiding crosses and burning undershirts or anything like that anymore. I was a little bit more tolerant, and so I took them and said, listen, because it was for their recovery, not my recovery, right? It had nothing to do with me. So I asked them to go back when they go to the aftercare and ask this gentleman, and the only reason I said gym coach is because he wasn't trained in addiction counseling and he wasn't in recovery. Okay, that's the only reason I said that. And ask him when the last time he went to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting was, because I knew he didn't go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings because I went to Narcotics Anonymous.
You would, yeah.
And I asked them to ask him that, and then I asked them to ask them why he thinks there's no recovery in NA if he hasn't been to an NA meeting recently, and that you have a sponsor that has over 20 years clean in Narcotics Anonymous. So how can he say that Narcotics Anonymous doesn't work? We kind of had this myth a long time ago in 12-step programs that somehow people that have stayed clean a long time somehow are wise and wonderful. Now we know that that is not true anymore, right? And we know that you can't go sit next to the wise and wonderful guy and get recovery through osmosis. You have to work the 12 steps and the 12 traditions. But that we had a long period there where we just thought if you had nice, pretty words and had been around a long time, that somehow you had the best recovery. And that's not true. You really, anytime you have any kind of person that you admire, do not put these people on a pedestal. Listen to what they have to say, and then see if they're walking their talk mad. Because I don't sound very spiritual most of the time, and I get questioned a lot, but I want you to understand that my walk and my talk are the same. And I am not a spiritual person, and so if you put me on a pedestal and I fall off, well, that's your fucking problem, not mine.
That's your fault.
That's all I got.
Okay.
We need to really change.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Two Old Timers Spout Off, and we truly are just spouting off our experience, our strength, and our hope. We're going to wrap this episode up with comments to please make suggestions. If you agree, disagree, all of those things are good. No hate speech, that kind of stuff. But if you have a differing point of view, if you want to bring up some other things, we'll talk about it. If you put it in the comments or send us an email, our email address is in the channel. I think it's 2.old.timers.spout.off@gmail.com.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it's in there.
We're talking about even if it's 10 years from today.
Yeah.
We're not talking about just now.
Right. Not November the 5th.
In 10 years, we're hoping to have at least 2 more episodes.
Yeah. So, go ahead and submit, subscribe. That way you'll find out when we drop a new episode.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. Word of mouth is about the only kind of promotion we're doing, trying to keep our anonymity. And if we promote it, then people will know where it comes from. So we need other folks to promote it as well. So we appreciate that.
And we're trying a different approach as far as we're not trying to be experts. We're not trying to tell you how you should or should not recover.
Oh, no.
That's why we want to open dialogue. And these are things that have bothered Fred and Ethel for a long time.
Yeah.
And it bothers other people, too, because we know a lot of other people on the program.
Right.
And we don't talk about a lot of these issues, so I think it's good to talk about these issues.
Right. I was at a meeting earlier this week, and we were using the acronym SPAD, Spiritual Principle a Day, And before the meeting, this lady who's got over 30 years said she always hated that. And I said, why? And she said, because, I said, it's just an abbreviation. She said, well, new folks may not know what the SPAD is. I said, well, what about the JFT? She said, I hated that too. I said, well, what about Narcotics Anonymous and NA? And she said, well, most people know they're at an NA meeting or a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. But, as our acronyms, people may not know what they are and may feel excluded and not welcoming to newcomers. One of the things we wanted to talk about about was welcoming the newcomer.
Yeah.
And I really heard what she said, you know. It was a pet peeve of hers, you know, like my pet peeve is the tradition things that we talked about in the tradition one. If you want to know about it, go listen to the introduction to the traditions.
Well, what's what this whole thing is about?
I know.
Right? It's trying to make, we want newcomers to feel welcome.
Right.
And we want to not take the outside world and have opinions on it and get upset at them because they're just doing, treatment centers, AA, all those people are just doing their jobs,
doing the best they can with what they got.
And it's not our job to even take them personally. It's our job to welcome newcomers and explain to them who we are.
Right.
Because that's more important. Because
and you
that
can't
saves
do
lives.
that by calling them out and freaking embarrassing them, fucking embarrassing them in front of a damn group, you know?
Having a T-shirt that has the red line that says no andas on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make people feel welcome. And I'm not saying I don't understand it. And I'm not saying that I didn't like it when people said my name is Ethel, I'm an addict and an alcoholic. I'm not saying I didn't like that I liked that. I didn't like it. But I was so young and immature, I didn't really know how to deal with it. And I took everything personally because my feelings were on my sleeve.
Yes.
Right?
And now you have to develop some alligator skin and recover. But thank you once again. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. And we'll see you next time. This is Two Old Timers Spout Off and adding a tail end to our episode on November the 5th, which is on, you know, the clarity statement and all the stuff you just heard. We would like to invite anyone who has difference of opinion or wishes to be on Two Old Timers Spout Off. Contact us. We'll do a Skype. We'll do a three-way discussion. We'll, you know, if you want to verbally respond to some of the things that you've heard on our channel, whether it be this episode or any other, we'll, you know, maintain your anonymity and all that. We'll come up with another
criticizing is okay. We can have a
we can have a three-way
dialogue.
We can have a dialogue.
Yeah.
We'll not Skype, but what's the other one that we use all this? Zoom. We'll Zoom it and not record the video. We'll just record the audio and put it out there. And you're welcome to have a say. You know, this is not just us dishing out. You know, we want you to feel like you are a part of, or if you just want to sit in and do a three-way with us. That sounds a little weird.
I don't know. My ears perked up.
Okay, Two Old Perverts Spout Off. We love y'all and hang in there.
And we like all genders.
Yes, all genders, all however many there are now. I don't even know. Hard to keep up with, but anyway. And have a good day.